The Adrasi embassy hovered in geostationary orbit above Earth's Pacific sector, its polished nacelles catching the first rays of dawn like an otherworldly crown. Inside the grand atrium, a soaring chamber of crystalline panels and softly glowing conduits, Dr. Elias Chen adjusted the collar of his ceremonial uniform for the third time. He could feel the thrum of the ship's core beneath his feet, a gentle vibration that echoed the excitement in his chest. Elias, xenobiologist and junior envoy to the United Earth Council, had spent the last 5 years preparing for this moment. He had devoured Adrasi linguistics, memorized their ritual protocols, and endured endless simulations of first contact scenarios. Yet nothing in training could fully prepare him for walking across that sunlit platform toward the tallest representative of an alien civilization. The crowd of diplomats and scientists standing behind the reinforced transparasteel balustrade watched in rapt silence. Human and Adrasi delegates alike held ceremonial staffs or data slates, ready to record every nuance. Hushed translations flickered on floating holo displays. Here begins the new dawn accord. Elias's pulse quickened. The far end of the dais, Ambassador Thrin Ez emerged from the swirling mist of the embassy's decontamination portal. She was almost 2 meters tall, her lithe frame draped in a robe of shifting violetin fibers that caught the light like liquid amethyst. Her skin gleamed with iridescent patterns, pale greens, opals, and rose golds that moved in slow, rippling currents. 2 slender tendrils framed her face like bioluminescent pigtails, and her large, expressive eyes, almond-shaped pupil-less pools of molten silver, regarded the assembled humans with serene curiosity. Elias swallowed. Years of academic fascination flooded back. The Adrasi reproductive cycle, their unparalleled mastery of bioengineering, the whispered rumors of empathic linkages in their neural clusters. And now, here she was, standing 3 paces away, extending, a tapered hand clad in an elegantly armored gauntlet. He stepped forward. "Ambassador Thrin Ez," he began, voice steady though his insides felt liquid. "It is the greatest honor of my life." She inclined her head, the shifting pigments along her jawline forming what humans could only interpret as a smile. "Dr. Chen." Her voice resonated like wind through crystal, clear, melodic, yet beneath it, something deeper, a subtle chord vibrating in his chest. "The honor is mutual." Protocol dictated a simple hand-to-claw greeting, a respectful touch, a test for pathogens, and a symbol of mutual trust. The embassy's medical team had run every diagnostic. There was no known hazard in skin surface contact. Elias exhaled and extended his right hand. The moment his flesh met her iridescent carapace, time fractured. A cascade of tingles swept up. His arm, at once electric and organic, as if millions of microscopic fibers were awakening beneath his skin. In his mind's eye, he saw impossible shapes. Golden fractals spiraling into emerald nebulae, the echo of 1,000 heartbeats harmonizing into a single resonant tone. He blinked, startled, and the world snapped back into focus. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Elias took an involuntary half-step backward. His hand tingled, the skin reddening. Thrin Ez's patterns flared brighter, concentric rings fanning out from her wrist. Concern flashed in her silver eyes. "Medical team. Assist Dr. Chen," she said, her tone shifting from ceremonial calm to urgent warmth. 2 Adrasi med drones whirred forward, scanners humming. A biotic mist exhaled from their nozzles, coating his arm in a soft blue glow. Elias fought dizziness, his vision speckled with motes of light. The chief medic, Dr. Lyra Vox, knelt beside him, her 3-fingered hand checking his pulse. "His vitals are spiking, but stable," she announced. No toxins detected. It appears to be a psychosomatic response and extraordinary but non-threatening. Elias clenched his teeth as the tingling receded, replaced by a dull throb like the aftershock of an electrical surge. He looked up at Thrynis, whose luminescence had settled into a gentle, pulsing glow of concern. "I apologize," Elias managed, swallowing. I've never felt anything like that." She reached out, this time without formal barrier, and clasped his hand with both of hers. Her touch was warm, comforting. "The bond transcends your biology. It is not harmful, Dr. Chen. It speaks of mutual acceptance." Acceptance. The word reverberated deeper than any scientific term he had ever studied. Around them, the assembled delegates held their collective breath. Then slowly, applause began. Tentative at first, then swelling into a triumphant roar that echoed through the embassy's vaulted halls. Elias allowed himself a small, relieved smile. He released Thrynis's hand, and she bowed her head in return. "Let this day mark the beginning of a true partnership between our peoples," she declared, voice carrying across the chamber. "May our alliance blossom as brightly as the stars under which we stand." As the ceremony continued, holographic exchanges of treaties, gifted artifacts glittering under star lamps, Elias's mind returned again and again to the tremor of that first contact. A whisper of promise, perhaps, or something more profound. He caught that same electric spark in Thrynis's gaze, a shared recognition that both frightened and exhilarated him. When the formalities concluded, and the doors to the embassy's inner sanctum slid open, Elias paused on the threshold. Behind him, shouts of celebration. Ahead, the unknown. He inhaled a steadying breath and stepped forward. Whatever awaited them, scientific wonders, diplomatic perils, unimaginable discoveries, he would face them together with the being whose hand he had 2 standard days later, April 17th, 2154 by Earth reckoning, Dr. Elias Chen awoke in the soft white glow of his quarters aboard the Adrasi Embassy's medical cruiser, the Mir Raitu. The vessel's artificial dawn chimed gently through the viewport, painting his bunk in pale violet hues. His dreams had been restless, shards of that first contact, electric blooms across his nerves. Thrynis's eyes alight with something like recognition, had drifted through his sleep like ghostly nebulae. Now blinking against the light, he reached out to mute the hollow display hovering above his nightstand. The notification blinked. Blood serum analysis. Complete. Embryonic biomarkers. Detected patient. Ambassador Thryn S. Dr. Mara Ulani Elias's. Heart thundered. He tapped the message and the world expanded around him in cascading data streams. Genetic sequences scrolled across the holoscreen. Strands of terrestrial DNA interwoven with Adrasi biomolecular filaments, an impossible tapestry of life. He felt the air catch in his lungs, his breath halting for a moment. "Positive," he whispered, voice trembling. "She's pregnant." Moments later, he bolted from the bunk, uniform sleeves half tucked, feet thudding against the polished floor as he raced toward the medical bay. The corridors of the Mir Raitu hummed with quiet activity. Adrasi medtechs and human geneticists clustering around terminal consoles, monitors displaying undulating lines of genetic code. At the bay's threshold, Dr. Mara Ulani, lead xenogeneticist for the United Earth Council, looked up from her workstation, her brow already furrowed in both astonishment and exhilaration. "Dr. Chen," she said, voice steady despite the tremor quivering at the edge. "We have confirmation." She handed him a 2-dimensional hollow projection of Thrynis's biometrics. Elias hovered his fingers over the projection, zooming in on the embryonic pulse. a pale rhythmic oscillation at the center of an otherwise empty gestational field. That's the heart, at just 30 Terran hours, Mara explained. And, here, she swiped, shifting to a volumetric scan, is the nascent neural nexus. See how the synaptic ridges mimic both mammalian and polymeric patterns? Elias stared, scarcely believing his eyes. This is beyond anything we've cataloged. He ran a hand through his hair. Cross-species gestation should violate the fundamental tenets of developmental biology. Human ovular receptors could never interface with Yggdrasi spore. Plasmids. Mara's lips quirked. Yet they have. It's as if the bond from that handshake rewrote the receptacle at a molecular level. The Yggdrasi call it Lyra-neth, a resonant symbiosis. She turned the hollow projection so they could both see. We need to observe, not dissect. Any invasive tests could risk both lives. Elias nodded, swallowing. He felt the full weight of responsibility settle upon him. He had come to the embassy, as a scientist, and now he was the biological father-to-be of a being from another world. The implications were staggering, politically, ethically, scientifically. Every frontier was being redrawn in this single moment. Over the next hours, the medical bay buzzed with activity. Yggdrasi biodrones flitted past, administering non-invasive scans while human embryologists calibrated spectrographic analyzers to Thrinis's unique bioluminescent signatures. Elias watched from a raised observation platform, arms crossed. The room was silent save for the soft hum of artificial intelligences collating data. Every so often, Mara would call out an observation. The amniotic flux is stable, and an Yggdrasi technician would respond, translating for the human contingent. Late in the cycle, just before the cruiser's midday sink, Elias was summoned to join Thrinis in her private observation suite. He stepped through the sliding doors into a chamber suffused with gentle violet light. At its center, a crystalline orb hovered, projecting a three-dimensional visualization of Thrinis's internal systems. Her form reclined on a biogenerative couch, robes parted to reveal softly glowing ridges along her abdomen. She turned her great silver eyes to him and smiled, warm, tentative, as though she, too, had spent sleepless nights wondering if this was real. "Elias," she breathed, her voice a soft resonance that thrummed at the core of his being. "Do you believe this?" He swallowed, stepping forward. Even in repose she radiated authority, but now there was vulnerability etched in the gentle curves of her shoulders. "I believe," he said, voice thick with emotion. "I believe that we have been chosen for something beyond our protocols. That this life, our child, carries the hope of two civilizations." Her bioluminescent pattern shifted into concentric hearts, an Yggdrasi gesture of affection. "Hope," she echoed. "I did not expect fear, nor wonder so pure." They stood in silence, gazing at the orb. Elias reached out, letting his fingertips brush against the projection's surface, feeling the subtlest vibration as if the child were trying to communicate. It pulsed in time with his heartbeat, a tender, unbroken cadence. "I will protect her," he promised, glancing up at Thrinis. "And you." She inclined her head, touching one slender tendril to his wrist in silent thanks. In that simple touch, Elias felt the tremors of that first handshake, only gentler now, like the murmur of a promise. As he left the suite, the data streams in the corridor glowed brighter. Word of the pregnancy had circulated. Awe and solidarity replaced the initial shock. The mere Raitu's crew moved with purpose, united by a shared mission. Somewhere deep within the vessel's core, artificial ecosystems thrived, genetic archives, botanical conservatories, preparing to nurture this unprecedented life. Later, back in his quarters, Elias accessed the United Earth Council's secure channel. He recorded a formal report, developmental milestones, projected gestational timelines, ethical safeguards. He signed off, then added a personal note, meant only for Thrynes. Together we walk into uncharted stars. He set the holo display to sleep and stared out the viewport at the swirling cosmic vista. 2 days ago he had feared a simple diplomatic mission. Now, he was father to a child of 2 worlds. And as the stars wheel overhead, the Mir Raitu's observation deck was perched at the very edge of its dorsal hull, a glass-fronted pavilion that presented a panoramic view of the Milky Way's glittering spiral. Here, day and night were measured not by the sun's rise and set but by the slow dance of nebulae and star clusters beyond. It was in this celestial theater that Elias and Thrynes found themselves drawn together, time and again, in moments of quiet respite from their unprecedented ordeal. Elias arrived one synthetic evening to find Thrynes seated on a curved bench of translucent alloy, her form illuminated by the pale glow of interstellar dust. She held a slender instrument, a resonance harp native to her homeworld, its strings shimmering like filaments of light. "I have been practicing," she said, her voice tentative. "They told me Earth music, but I wanted to share mine with you first." He settled beside her, heart fluttering as she plucked the strings. The notes rose in gentle arcs, each tone reverberating through the deck and stirring something deep within him. He closed his eyes, letting the music paint colors against his closed lids, indigo spirals, emerald tremors, and soft pallid waves. When the final chord faded, he opened his eyes to find Thrynes watching him with a curious tilt of her head. "That was beautiful," he whispered. He lifted his hand, palm open, and she placed one of her glowing tendrils in it. "May I play something for you?" he asked. From his uniform he withdrew a small hollow emitter and activated it, sending rippling chords of an old Earth lullaby into the air. It was a melody he had sung to his niece as a child, a simple tune yet laden with warmth. As the lullaby drifted through the vacuum-sealed dome, something miraculous occurred. The harp's strings began to vibrate in harmony, echoing his notes with alien counterpoint. A duet across species, woven from 2 distant cultures into a single, fragile harmony. Elias felt tears prickle at his eyes. "Our hearts are conversing," he said softly, "even before our child has a voice." Over the following rotations, they shared lessons in music and language and laughter. Elias taught her the nuances of human idioms, how butterflies in your stomach described nervous excitement, or how out of this world could be taken literally. Thrynes introduced him to the concept of empathic impression, a subtle melding of emotional auras that allowed 2 Adrasi to share feelings directly. Under her guidance, Elias closed his eyes and reached out with his mind, and for a fleeting instant he tasted her wonder, her cautious hope, even the drumbeat of new life within her. One evening, as distant stars flared like cosmic beacons, Thrynes turned to him. "The child," she murmured, "responds to music." She calibrated the harp to a low, drifting tone. Within seconds, the orb projecting the baby's vitals pulsed in time with the melody. Elias watched the heartbeat pattern, steady, alive, synchronizing with the resonance frequencies. He pressed a hand to his chest, feeling pride bloom like a supernova. "She's learning already," he said, voice thick. Their partnership deepened beyond diplomat and scientist, beyond even prospective parents bound by fate. It became the union of 2 souls discovering the contours of trust and affection across the gulf of biology, in shared silences and whispered conversations beneath alien skies. Elias and Thrines forged a bond that no treaty could match. And as their hybrid child stirred to life within the ambassador's womb, they both understood. The truest bridge between worlds was not built by policy or protocol. News of the Yggdrasi human hybrid pregnancy ripped through both civilizations like a pulse wave. Within hours, clandestine footage of Thrines in her private suite, hand on her glowing abdomen, had leaked across Earth's hollow net and the Yggdrasi comm grid. On Earth, fringe politicians and xenophobes decried the abomination, accusing the United Earth Council of betraying humanity. On Yggdrasi Prime, conservative high-sanction counselors warned of genetic contamination and demanded the ambassador be recalled for censure. Elias Chen watched the backlash ripple through both species from the vantage of the Mir Raitu's crisis center. A semicircular bank of view screens displayed rotating feeds, angry Earth protesters holding placards reading, "Keep our species pure," Yggdrasi zealots chanting, "Color the veil," as they brandished luminous banners in the Grand Plaza of Thrines' home city, Varn area. Every channel crackled with vitriol and fear. Dr. Lyra Vox, the embassy's chief medic, tapped a hollow control. "We have increased security around the ambassador's quarters. She's safe, but stress could jeopardize the gestation." Elias rubbed his temples. They had anticipated scientific scrutiny and diplomatic hurdles, but not this wholesale panic. He staggered into the adjoining war room, where Ambassador Thrines stood before a holographic star map, her bioluminescent patterns dimmed to slate gray. Even in this charged moment she exuded grace, but he saw the tremor in her tendrils. "They call me an abomination," she said, voice low. "They threaten to sever all ties with Earth. I have worked my entire career for peace." Elias placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Then we give them peace worth fighting for." He swept a hand toward the star map. "Tomorrow, the United Stellar Summit. You and I will address both councils and every world watching. We'll show them that fear cannot dictate our future." That night they drafted their joint address in a cramped strategy cabin. Thrines' graceful script, rendered by Elias's translation, spoke of unity, shared destiny, and the living testament growing between them. Elias wove in human proverbs. "A single spark can light 1,000 stars. And what divides us pales before what unites us." When at last they laid down their styluses, exhaustion and resolve flickered in their eyes. The following day, the Grand Hall of the United Stellar Summit was packed to capacity. Earth delegates, Yggdrasi senators, and envoys from half a dozen allied worlds filled the tiers. Hollow cameras beamed the proceedings home. At the dais, Elias felt the weight of every gaze, hostile, hopeful, curious, pressing upon him. Vice-Chancellor Mara Moore of Yggdrasi Prime opened the session with a measured tone. "We convene to decide whether this anomaly is blessing or bane." A chorus of murmurs rose. Elias steadied himself, recalled Thrines' quiet strength. When his turn came, he stepped forward. "Esteemed representatives of humanity and Yggdrasi alike," he began, voice amplified, but soft. "2 days ago our world changed forever, not because of politics but because of life. In Thrines' womb lies our future. A child of both star systems bearing no flag but that of possibility." He paused, letting the words sink in. Across the chamber, he saw hardened faces soften. "We fear the unknown," he continued. "Fear has driven us apart. Yet here, in this miracle, we find our common ground. This child's heartbeat echoes in both our worlds. To reject her is to reject the promise of unity." Thrines rose beside him, her own pale voice weaving through the hall. My people taught me that our destiny is written in the folds of our DNA, yet this life rewrote my destiny. It reminds us that life respects no boundary drawn by politics. We stand at a crossroads, succumb to fear, or embrace the unknown together. Silence reigned. Then, from the back row, Earth Ambassador Kira Sol rose, her stern expression giving way to wonder. I see what you mean. Perhaps this child is our greatest ambassador. One by one, more delegates stood, their murmurs blossoming into supportive cheers. The Vice-Chancellor nodded, voice steady. Let this chamber record our decision. We will officially recognize the hybrid as a citizen of both worlds, protected under the New Dawn Accord. A final ripple of applause swept the hall. As holographic confetti shimmered overhead, Elias and Thrinas exchanged weary smiles. Outside, protests melted into cautious celebrations, humans and Yggdrasi alike gathering beneath the embassy's arches, hopeful children reaching out to touch glowing banners, elders exchanging whispered blessings. That night, beneath a sky alive with alien constellations, Elias and Thrinas stood hand in hand on the observation deck. Around them, the galaxy stretched endless and undaunting. Elias looked down at the growing curve of her abdomen, its gentle luminescence a beacon of their shared triumph. In a few months, he murmured, we'll meet our daughter. Thrinas's pattern swirled into concentric orbs of light, and in her life, she said softly, she'll carry the story of today, how two worlds chose love over fear. June 21st, 2154, Universal Standard Time. The birthing chamber aboard the Mir Raitu thrummed with gentle biogenic hums as Thrinas breathed through the final resonance waves of labor. Elias stood at her side, gloved hand intertwined with one of her glowing tendrils, as medtech drones adjusted the ambient temperature and bioluminescent lighting to mirror the warm dawn of her homeworld. Outside the reinforced transperistyle viewport, distant starfields spun in silent witness to this cosmic event. With a final, sonorous exhalation, Thrinas's bioluminescent patterns flared into 1,000 points of pale violet and gold. A soft, crystalline coo sounded as the hybrid child emerged, small, fragile, yet pulsing with a vitality that transcended both her parents' species. The infant's skin was a delicate tapestry of human softness and Yggdrasi opalescence. Her fingers tapered into gentle points, each tipped with the faintest shimmer of bioluminescent filament. Elias felt tears spring to his eyes as the child's tiny palm curled around his gloved finger. The room held its breath as the onboard scanners registered her first heartbeat, a perfect rhythmic pulse that resonated across two biological paradigms in harmonious accord. She's perfect, Elias whispered, voice choked. Thrinas nodded, her patterns shifting into concentric hearts, an Yggdrasi gesture of profound gratitude and love. Outside the chamber, the crew had gathered virtually and in person, human geneticists, Yggdrasi biologists, diplomats who had once opposed them, now stood united in joyous awe. A gentle chorus of greetings flowed through the intercom, Earth's congratulations, blending seamlessly with Yggdrasi salutations of Lyra Neth. Each voice carried the wonder of bearing witness to a living bridge between worlds. Later, in a quiet reflection room, Elias and Thrinas chose a name for their daughter, Marin Shah, melding Thrinas's word for living star with Elias's family name. As they spoke her name aloud, the infant stirred, her tiny chest shining in time with their voices. Elias brushed a strand of silver hair from Thrinas's brow and said, "She is our dawn." In the weeks that followed, the hybrid's presence softened tensions across both civilizations. Earth's xenophobe factions dissolved before the overwhelming proof that life, regardless of origin, could forge bonds stronger than fear. On Idrasa Prime, the high-sanctioned councilors issued a historic decree, granting Marinshah full citizenship in both the United Earth Council and the Idrasi Concord. As Elias held Marinshah on the observation deck one quiet evening, Thrin S. At his side he gazed out at the fields of stars, each one a world waiting to be embraced. The galaxy felt suddenly more intimate, its vastness no longer a barrier but a canvas for their family's story. Elias pressed a gentle kiss to his daughter's luminescent forehead and vowed, "We will show them all that love can span any distance, even the stars." And so amid swirling nebulae and the soft glow of distant suns, a new chapter in interstellar history began, written in the heartbeat of a child who carried the hope of two worlds in her very blood.